So today, we're diving into two completely different but equally high-stakes global battlefields. One is all about missiles and drones, escalating a conflict right across the Middle East. The other? It's a legal fight playing out in a California courtroom. Now I know, they seem like they're worlds apart, but you're going to see they share a surprisingly similar playbook.
I know, it sounds like the start of a weird joke, right? But the answer actually connects the front lines of modern conflict. How? Well, it turns out that both ballistic missiles and social media notifications can be used as weapons in a very new kind of war. Let's unpack that.
Okay, first up, let's head to the Middle East, because the ground there is literally shifting beneath some of the most modern cities in the world. For decades, when you think of these cities, you think of stability, of commerce, of these glittering symbols of progress. But lately, the sounds of air raid sirens and missile interceptions, well, that's become a deeply unsettling, new reality.
This quote from a reporter on the ground, man, it just captures that growing fear perfectly. The very idea of what's safe in the region is being totally rewritten as Iran's retaliation against the US and its allies puts these Gulf nations right in the crossfire.
And we are not talking about a few isolated incidents here. In the UAE, you have falling debris from intercepted missiles causing actual casualties. Over in Kuwait, a fuel tank at the international airport just went up in flames after they intercepted more than 20 missiles in a single day. Saudi Arabia is dealing with constant drone attacks on its oil facilities in its capital. Even Bahrain is hearing air raid sirens more and more.
But here's the thing. The threat isn't just coming from the sky. There's this whole other parallel conflict going on, right on the ground. A shadow war that's every bit as destabilizing.
And this is where that internal threat really comes into focus. You've got several Gulf states reporting that they're cracking down on what they call sleeper cells. Kuwait, for instance, says it arrested a Hezbollah-linked group that was planning assassinations. Of course, Iran and Hezbollah officially deny everything, but for these countries, the threat from within feels just as real as the one raining down from above.
All right, now let's pivot to our next battlefield. And this one isn't a desert, it's a courtroom. The targets here aren't military bases, they're the business models of some of the most powerful companies on the planet.
I mean, think about it. Companies like Meta and Google, they connect billions of us every single day. They are woven into the very fabric of our digital lives. But a landmark court case is now forcing this huge global conversation about the hidden price of that connection.
$6 million. That's the penalty a jury just handed down. And this wasn't for some data breach or privacy issue. This was for damages for one young woman's addiction to social media. An addiction the jury said was intentionally caused by the way the platforms were designed. This quote from a parent, it just cuts right to the absolute heart of this case. You can feel that profound sense of betrayal. The feeling that while parents were trying to keep their kids safe, these companies were allegedly engineering addiction for profit. So let's just break this verdict down for a second. A jury found Meta and Google liable for intentionally building addictive platforms that harmed a young user's mental health. The plaintiff in this case talked about spending up to 16 hours a day online when she was a kid. Now, the defense from Meta and Google was, hey, teen mental health is complicated. You can't blame it on one app. But the jury didn't buy it. Both companies are planning to appeal for sure, but a massive legal precedent has just been set.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, missiles in the Gulf, lawsuits in California. What on earth do these two things have in common? Well, the answer is in the strategy, the playbook being used in both arenas.
This right here is the key. Asymmetric warfare. It's the classic David versus Goliath story, right? It's all about a smaller, less powerful side finding the weak spots of a much larger opponent and then just pressing on those weak spots, relentlessly.
And you can see exactly how this plays out when you put them side by side. In the Gulf, Iran and its allies are using drones and missiles, which are relatively cheap weapons, to challenge the massive, superior military might of the US and its allies. And in the courtroom, well, individual families are using the legal system, really their only weapon, to take on tech giants worth trillions of dollars. Both are perfect examples of asymmetric conflict.
The playbook is basically identical. Step 1, you find a vulnerability. It doesn't matter if it's a nation's reliance on secure shipping lanes or a company's reliance on an addictive business model. Step 2, you apply constant, painful pressure. And what's the goal of all that pressure? Step 3, to gain leverage.
And that leverage, that's everything. This isn't just about causing random chaos. In the Gulf,
The pressure from those attacks is designed to create leverage for negotiations over sanctions, over regional influence. In the courtroom, every single legal victory creates leverage to force these tech giants to change their products. In both cases, the goal is to force a much stronger opponent to the table, but on your terms.
So, these new kinds of battlefields are forcing new kinds of accountability. Which raises the question, what does the future even look like when the old rules of conflict just don't apply anymore?
You hear this phrase a lot, but it really fits here. Experts are already calling this a big tobacco moment for big tech. And that's a really powerful comparison. It suggests we could be right at the beginning of a huge societal shift in how we see and how we regulate these platforms.
And the potential changes could be dramatic. I mean, just imagine a world without the infinite auto-scroll. A world where platforms can't use algorithms to just keep feeding you content to keep you hooked. Or maybe social media becomes an over-18 experience with health warnings right there on the screen, just like we have on cigarette packs. This one single verdict could set off a chain reaction that fundamentally changes the internet as we know it.
So when you boil it all down, what these two very different stories really show us is that the most important battles of the 21st century, they might not be fought over land or resources anymore. They might be fought over influence, over accountability, and maybe most importantly, over our attention.
And that leaves all of us with a really critical question to grapple with. From the skies over Dubai to the screen right in your hand, the front lines are now everywhere. And in this new era, who is ultimately responsible for keeping us safe? That's the challenge we're all facing now.